Today on the Meir Kin channel, I have already exposed Aguna activists as liars and manipulators of facts, but do rabbis and dayanim also twist and create halacha to achieve their objectives of forcing gittin? Did Flatbush Clown present any evidence I requested for her on a previous video that proves Rabbi Gestetner receives payment for his services? Are children dying because of parental alienation? All this and more coming up right now. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Meir Kin channel, where I provide you with the knowledge you require regarding genuine Jewish divorce law while exposing the fabrications, falsehoods, and misinformation spread by the ignorant, the corrupted rabbis, feminist Jewish groups, and even some women themselves. Today's video is dedicated to Leilu Nishmas Abacher Meir Dov ben Rabbi Yosef, who perished at the tender age of 13 from enormous sorrow and stress imposed upon him because of parental alienation. Later in the video, I will provide more information about this. Although this video might be longer than usual, please watch till the end since I have important facts to share with you. Recently, I demonstrated how Aguna activists such as Flatbush Clown and others fabricate and falsify facts to justify their coercion tactics in obtaining a get against the Torah. In my part 2 video, which I will link below, I challenged Flatbush Clown's false allegation against one of the few honest dayanim in the world today, Rabbi Gestetner from Monsey, New York. Let's listen in again to her false allegations and my rebuttal and challenge of her slander.
Nowadays that you have kollels and you have DocuSign, you can churn out a Heter Mea Derabanan in 10 hours for $10,000 if you go to Gestetner's Bezdin, who lives at 17 Mosier Court in Monsey, okay? And is most corrupt.
Are you drumming up business for him?
No, I'm drumming up visibility and accountability to the fact that he runs a scam business.
You know what, my dear viewers? I am now going to present Flatbush Girl with a challenge, but without a neder, of course, as a Jew is not supposed to be making nedarim. I ask you, my viewers, to send her the following message from me with the following challenge. If you, Flatbush Girl, can provide me with written proof of any man who received a Heter Mea Rabbanim from Rabbi Gestetner and paid him even $1 for that Heter Mea Rabbanim, and you can show me that document, I will give you $10,000. Let me repeat that statement. I will, b'li neder, give to Flatbush Girl or any other person, including dayanim from other Batei Din, $10,000 if you can provide valid proof of a Heter Mea Rabbanim or any other document provided by Rabbi Gestetner for a fee of at least $1. I assure you that she will not be able to provide the proof as it doesn't exist. Yet, she has no problem besmirching Rabbi Gestetner while committing grave sins of Lashon Hara, Rechilus, U'Motzi Shemra. So what do you believe was her response to my challenge? You guessed it, nada, zero, zilch. She, of course, could not bring proof to her statements since they are fabricated lies. You see, the difference between Rabbi Gestetner and fake Aguna activists, as well as fake Aguna promoting rabbis, is that Rabbi Gestetner always brings authentic halachic sources that back up his statements. All the others concoct lies about people and halacha. Below, I will link a detailed document prepared by Rabbi Gestetner, which contains an in-depth analysis of the Hilchas Moa Salai. These halachas are relevant to most divorces today. No one today can compare their knowledge of these halachas relating to divorce to Rabbi Gestetner. Imagine if, God forbid, you needed specialized brain surgery, you would most definitely seek out not only a good neurosurgeon, but one who has performed many such surgeries that you need. Similarly, Rabbi Gestetner is not just any rabbi, but someone who dedicated over 20 years just to the subject of Jewish divorce, and to say that he's an expert is an understatement. As you can see from this document, number 1095, he cites all rabbinic opinions on a subject matter and highlights why we don't follow the opinions of individuals when the majority of sages rule differently. So the next time you hear from a heretic rabbi citing one source, such as the Rambam said this, or Rabbi Palaji said this, or Rabbi Yerucham said this, he's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, since what matters is what the majority of poskim rule on a certain subject and not individual opinions. The detailed analysis by Rabbi Gestetner proves and establishes that in matters of Moasalai, which represents the majority of cases today, we do not coerce a get, and therefore all the rallies, sanctions, public shaming being done today and being sanctioned by the corrupt rabbis is not only against halacha, but they result in an invalid get since they are coerced getting, and those that shame these men to coerce a get are murdering as per halacha. The Torah teaches us that shaming someone in public is akin to murder, and one loses their olam haba. We learn this concept from several sources, but pay close attention to the following Gemara in Masechet Baba Metzia Nun Tes Omer Aleph, or 59a. King David proclaimed that he was constantly taunted and shamed by his adversaries, to where if he would cut his flesh, there would be no blood left to spurt out. The sages state that whoever says that King David sinned by the story of Bathsheba is making a serious mistake. People would taunt King David about the Bathsheba saga by pretending to ask a halacha question. They would ask him, "What is the punishment of one who commits adultery?" And King David would reply that he receives the death penalty through chenek or strangulation. However, if he repents, he still has a chelek l'olam haba. But whoever shames a person in public, he loses his chelek l'olam haba. Therefore, those corrupted rabbis who support women who violated the Torah by litigating their husbands in civil courts against the Torah, rabbis who support women who alienate children from fathers, and rabbis who allow aguna activists to accuse and humiliate husbands in public against the Torah are themselves considered sinners according to the Torah, as they actively and knowingly are assisting these women in committing cardinal sins against the Torah. This is referred to by our sages as Mesayea le'oivre avera. Such people have no halacha credibility, and their statements are considered heresy. These sins alone invalidate their ability to act as rabbinic judges as per the Shulchan Aruch. But you know what? I'm going to challenge all the rabbinic judges out there involved in divorce matters to read document 1095, which I will link in the description below, and please show me A, any discrepancies in what is written, and B, if you have a different majority of poskim that rule differently in matters of Moasalai and that allow coercing a get under such circumstances, I'd like to know. I mean authentic poskim that lived hundreds of years ago until the era of the Chazon Ish. This would exclude any contemporary opinion rendered in the past 70 years or opinions from the past that do not represent the majority consensus on the subject matter. There are no unique scenarios existing today that our poskim did not address in their halachic responsa of the past. Therefore, don't bring me an opinion of a contemporary rabbi that disputes the opinion of not only greater sages that preceded him, but also disputes the consensus of the majority of poskim. The halachic opinion of the contemporary rabbi cannot overrule the established psak or ruling that was already cemented centuries ago. Additionally, it is already widely accepted and known among true scholars that you cannot dispute a psak which follows roiv minyan or binyan. Another ploy from the corrupted rabbis is to quote an opinion that not only is not accepted as a majority opinion on a subject matter, but oftentimes they will cite a source whose halachic responsa has been tampered with or forged and does not represent the true opinion of that sage. Sometimes they just misquote what the posek stated, hoping that the average person won't verify their information. This type of ploy has been used before by misquoting tshuvas from Rav Moshe Feinstein and Rabbi Chaim Palaji. Therefore, just like Flatbush Clown could not bring proof to her allegations against Rav Gestetner, similarly, the Erev Rav corrupted Rabbonim cannot and will not be able to refute the opinions of the Poskim, which are in document 1095. An additional two tricks employed by the unscrupulous corrupted rabbis are to A. apply harchokas de Rabbeinu Tam in cases of moasalai, which the majority of poskim rule that no harchokas are to be applied in such cases. B. They have misconstrued and misused the harchokas de Rabbeinu Tam in allowing public defamation and harassment and other direct sanctions against people, which is not only a lie and a distortion against what Rabbeinu Tam had comprised in his harchokas, since Rabbeinu Tam only allowed acts of menias toiva, which means withholding of certain favors and not directly shaming people. Therefore, these corrupted rabbis and Aguna activists are guilty of misapplying the law and as such are causing today's gittin to be invalid, as coerced gittin are not kosher. Imagine for a moment that a teenager is caught shoplifting from a grocery store and a judge sentences him for murder and not petty theft. This would be considered a gross miscarriage of justice. Similarly, misapplying and misconstruing the Achokas de Rabbeinu Tam is a miscarriage of halacha, a miscarriage of justice, but also causes the sin of Eishes Ish and the proliferation of Mamzerim. We recently witnessed the suicide of a 13-year-old Williamsburg boy, Habacher, Meir Doiv ben Rabbi Yosef, Zichrono Levracha, caused by a severe case of parental alienation where this boy was pleading for years to see his father, but ill-repute community activists and his mother refused his request. The blood of this boy rests on all those individuals who assisted preventing this innocent boy from fostering a healthy relationship with his father. This is a serious sin. We have witnessed in Bereshis, after Cain killed his brother Hevel, Hashem informed Cain, "What have you done?" Kol demei ochicha tzoakim alai min adama. The bloods of your brother are crying to me. We recently celebrated Chag HaPesach, where the core theme of this Chag is Vehigarato levincha. The Torah commands a father to teach his son about the events surrounding Yetzias Mitzrayim, yet hundreds or perhaps thousands of children cannot connect with their fathers on Chag HaPesach, or for that matter for numerous years, which is devastating to children and fathers alike. Thousands of fathers are being prevented from fulfilling the mitzvahs chinuch. Why is this happening? Because of today's dayanim and rabbonim. The modern-day false prophets are not only ignoring these infractions, but are assisting and promoting parental alienation. And therefore, they are accomplices to the murder of our children. How many children must take their own lives until our communities put a stop to parental alienation? Why are rabbis, dayanim, and community leaders turning a blind eye to this atrocity? The answer is money, power, and feminism, which drives the Jewish divorce train. You have Bati Din accepting $1,000 an hour, which is $350 an hour for each dayan, which is against the Torah. It has become a great business today to break apart families, to coerce gittin, and to ignore halachic violations because of the power of money. So we have Pasal Gittin being issued on a wholesale level. We have sins of Eishes Ish and Mamzerim being produced from adulterous marriage, as well as children dying by suicide because of the same rabbis who turn a blind eye to those women who are guilty of parental alienation. Yet all we hear about is the Aguna problem. Let me tell you something. There isn't an Aguna problem, and there was never an Aguna problem. The term Aguna being used today is completely taken out of context, because the moment you have a woman who can effectuate a fair divorce settlement early on that will guarantee her a get, but instead chooses to be cruel and inhumane by litigating in civil courts against halacha, stealing the children, the assets, obtaining orders of protection, imprisonment, and using Aguna activists as weapons of harassment, then know that this woman has no halachic status of Aguna, but a Moredes and a Marshas. And unfortunately, this is very prevalent today, and one of several reasons why get withholding is occurring. I am not referring to a case where the woman who has tried from the beginning to split everything 50-50 with no child support obligations, everything amicable, etc., but that the husband was the recalcitrant party who didn't want to negotiate fairly. I'm talking about the countless cases existing today where the corrupted dayanim, social workers, aguna groups, rabbis, askanim, etc., are helping advising women from the start to litigate, prosecute, harass, and alienate the children for no other reasons but out of pure hate, a show of power, dominance, and money considerations. But the ultimate cruelty is what the mothers are doing to their children. They are murdering them spiritually by taking away the father's important role in chinuch. They are murdering them physically and emotionally by inducing irreversible mental trauma, anguish, which can lead to suicide, as seen in the case of Abachar Meir Dov ben Yosef. Ladies and gentlemen, all of this information is known to me not from reading books or articles. Rather, my knowledge of this topic stems from my personal experience being a victim of the fake Aguna movement, a victim of false propaganda, and a victim of the error of Rav rabbis who falsified facts about my case because of their money and power-driven agendas. In the story of Purim, when Mordechai perceived that Queen Esther might not be as proactive in saving the Jews, he informed her that if she did not act and do the right thing, then Hashem would bring salvation through another source. But it was his last statement that was the most profound. Umi yodea im lo eis kazois higat lemalchus. Who knows if Hashem made you the queen precisely just for this mission? Dear viewers, this channel is not monetized. I started this channel after my mother's passing in 2019, where I witnessed the most horrific and cruel acts from evil dayanim and rabbis who took out their frustrations and hate against me by using the innocent corpse of my mother, Zichrono Livracha, as a hostage until I would issue a second get. They took advantage of a deceased person who cannot defend their right at that moment, an act of extortion against me, all because of my ex-wife Lana Ralbag Kin's refusal to pick up a get already issued in 2008. Do you see any difference between their actions and what Hamas has done with the hostages? This heinous extortion act was planned and executed by Rabbi David Lau, chief rabbi of Israel, who happens to be a cousin of Lana through marriage. Also planned by Rabbis Gershon Bess, Avram Union, and Nochem Sauer, all from the Rabbinical Council of California, and lastly, Aryeh Ralbag from Brooklyn, Lana's first cousin. To all of them we say, Shem Rishoim Yirkav. Rabbeinu Yoina says we derive from the pasuk of Elohim lo sekalel v'nosi be'amcha lo sa'or, that ordinarily one must not curse a rabbinic judge, but that is only if his rulings are based on authentic Torah principle. However, those that reform the Torah and persuade others to also violate the Torah are to be cursed as they profane the name of Hashem by their disregard of the truth and by causing others to sin. These above rabbis and many others like them have reformed the laws of divorce and encourage and support others in the sins of Get Meusa. In fact, just one example of many of their actions that support anti-Torah activities, we have here a screenshot of Avram Union pledging financial support for Ora, an organization that has violated the laws of Get Meusa by continuously embarrassing men in public against halacha, for which I have already stated above, Ein lo chelek lo'olam haba. You have to wonder why the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Lamed Tes, states that our suffering and troubles are due to the corrupt rabbis among us, what is the meaning of Chazal? Surely, aren't there other grave sins that could account for our suffering? The answer is that the rabbis are supposed to be our leaders, guiding us to follow the Torah that Hashem gave us, to which is known as Torah's Emes, but instead are causing others to follow in their corrupt ways. Their actions is causing many to sin, which leads to Chilul Hashem. Halacha does not allow someone to prevent a burial of a Jew, and in fact, the Torah commands a Kohen Gadol to defile himself with a mace mitzvah. These cruel and inhumane rabbis from Los Angeles, New York, and Israel are no less of a terrorist than their cousins in Gaza. These corrupted rabbis are a disgrace to our nation, for they have forsaken the Torah of Hashem by inventing and reforming the halachas related to divorce as they see fit. You have here a woman who from the start refused to go to Beis Din despite summoning her to a universally accepted Beis Din. A woman who litigated in civil court against halacha. A woman who initiated divorce proceedings and then dismissed them because she would have lost custody of our son after computer forensic evidence was discovered about immoral acts that she and her daughter were doing. A woman who had initiated a gag order to prevent any Beis Din from learning about her activities on those computers and nearly had me imprisoned for showing that gag order to Rabbi Gabiov of the Beis Din. A woman who alienated my son for numerous years and went to civil court to stop me from attending his bar mitzvah. The list goes on and on. So despite her halachic violations, and despite my early readiness and willingness to provide a get, as I simply requested a fair and halachic settlement which involved a straightforward shared custody agreement, she cruelly defied the laws of Gittin, defied fairness, and decided to harm my son by alienating him from a father that only has one son. She made sure to steal the mitzvah of V'shinantim levanecha v'higata levincha from me with untold damage to my son for years of no father-son relationship. I am very fortunate that my son was not suicidal over this trauma, but others are not as fortunate. There was no marital home or other assets to fight over. The only explanations for her actions are hate, power, and dominance. Yet despite of all halachic violations committed by Lana, these corrupted rabbis assisted her nefarious activities and spread false rumors about me that I am a get refuser after issuing a get to my Beis Din in 2008. I believe that you can now understand why I share my story and its details with you. It is meant to highlight for the public what are the real problems plaguing Jewish divorce. The core problem today is the incessant corruption of the Beis Din system that allows women to strip a husband or father of halachic rights to his children and assets. Numerous men hold back the get not for cruel reasons, but merely as a defensive posture in obtaining a fair settlement, which is their halachic and human right. Numerous women choose to be cruel and insensitive to the man's halachic rights simply because they know they will always have the support and backing of the corrupted judges, social workers, Aguna activists, etc. My story has been going on for 19 years. Lana, as well as others, have chosen the path of destruction instead of an amicable approach that could have resulted in a painless and quick divorce. I haven't been halachically compliant in the process all along, and therefore was issued a heter to remarry after Lana's incessant recalcitrance with the Jewish divorce process. Yet, despite 19 years of her obvious recalcitrance, we still witness rabbis, corrupted dayanim, Aguna activists, such as Kayla Haber-Goldstein, Flatbush Clown, and Ora, calling Rana Ralbag kin and Aguna, and even Lana herself says that she's an Aguna. This is a total lie and fabrication that distorts the true facts of the case. Let us listen in to their statements.
20 years? Lana Kin is in Aguna for 20 years. And some of you sit back and watch American's YouTube channel because you think it's funny. Shame on you.
My name is Lana Kin, and I am what they call an aguna, a woman chained to a dead marriage.
Do you see what I mean by fabrication, lies, and distortion? They referred to her as an aguna despite a get awaiting her to pick up from my bezin since 2008. Additionally, you just heard Lana calling herself an aguna, inferring that she feels trapped in a dead marriage. But play close attention to her following statement after obtaining a supposed annulment from the International Bezdin. Let us listen in to her words.
I'm no longer trapped by my husband. I am free. Thank God, I'm free.
So you just heard Lana state that she's no longer trapped by her husband. She is free. So which statement is true? Is she trapped or is she free? From her contradictory statements, it appears that we have here an aguna impostor. Once again, I refer you to the letter sent to Lana by Rabbi Gestetner, linked in the description box below. In that letter, he gives her specific instructions to follow in order to pick up a get, but she has refused. So the true get refuser here is Lana, who chose to not collect the get. Now that's her prerogative, but to also claim you're an aguna when you refuse to pick up a get, that is a blatant lie. The most damning part of that letter is where he mentions that from 2008 until 2015, after initially informing her of a get, she did nothing for 7 years, not even a phone call to inquire about this get. Nada, zilch. Yet this aguna imposter somehow became the aguna poster child of the aguna movement. They either could not find anyone with better credentials to fill that role, or someone more proud than Lana to be crowned as the world's longest aguna. How pathetic is that? Therefore, after seeing myself being falsely accused, seeing Lana, an aguna imposter, mislabeled with a fake aguna title, experiencing parental alienation, and seeing blatant rabbinic corruption, I decided that perhaps I too was put in this position of umi yodea im la'is kazois higat lamalchus, meaning perhaps I was thrust into such a position to speak out against such acts of injustice and distortions of the Torah. Because if a case such like mine, where I followed halachic divorce protocol and still have been mislabeled and accused as a get refuser, then surely many other men are being falsely accused. I was motivated to bring awareness to the unlearned who are not familiar with the complex laws of Jewish divorce, to bring awareness to the naive who blindly place their trust in corrupt dayanim, thinking that they will achieve authentic and fair halachic rulings, but instead find themselves victims of their unscrupulous and corruptive rulings. And finally, to bring awareness to parental alienation and its detrimental effects on children's mental health, with the potential for suicide, as recently witnessed in the case of Meir Dov Zichrono Livracha. One dead child is one too many. This has got to stop. So no, we do not have an aguna crisis. Instead, we have an influx of Reform-Orthodox Judaism that has mangled the Torah and halacha into a pretzel, obscuring the true facts from the lies. The war against the Reform-Orthodox movement began with the Chassam Sofer in the 19th century and continues until today. Are there agunas today? Yes, absolutely. Agunas do exist. However, the majority of cases are not aguna cases. We have Batei Din who are corrupted. They are self-appointed corrupted rabbis not vetted by a community, making grandiose decisions at their whim, destroying people's lives and the Torah in the process. So next time you hear of a case about a woman who does not have a get, determine first from her husband if he's allowed unfettered access to his children. If not, then know that this is not an aguna but a potential murderer. The same applies to a father who alienates the children from the mother. Remember, the term aguna is just one of many slogans and fake news being used today as a propaganda tool to confuse the public into sympathizing with their money and feminist-driven causes. These unscrupulous people use this tool to overturn and violate Torah and halacha in securing women's rights and dominance over children and their spouses. Parental alienation-driven suicide does not matter to them. Therefore, I implore my viewers who believe and desire to be true to the Torah and Hashem to stand up, stand firm, and be resolute in defending our children's equal rights to their fathers and to defend authentic halachic rights of men vis-a-vis in Jewish divorce procedures. With Hashem's help, we should merit to see less contentious divorces, no parental alienations, and Shalom Al Yisrael. Thank you for watching, and see you all in my next video.